Okay, so I'm going to do mainly the PowerPoint, but Jack's going to give the history portion of this as such, and thank y'all for being here today. So there's Jack's bio information, very active. We need to clone Jack. He's all over the place doing things.
So far I've been to 346 cemeteries here in Jefferson County, and I know there's 426, but some of them you just can't find any parts left, and there's some private property that I can't get on.
Yeah, you don't want to get on perhaps. Well, what about someone at my last talk asked about a cemetery off Westport Road and Murphy Lane. Were you familiar with one in that area? She said there's a stone wall up around there.
Yeah, that's the Williams, some other last name. A tree just fell in there not too long ago, and I think the subdivision did saw it up. But it's a nice cemetery.
But just off Murphy Lane there?
There is another one on Murphy Lane also. Way back behind, it's a church, it's Green something Church, I forgot what the name of it, but behind there is another cemetery back there.
But as you'll soon see, there are cemeteries in your backyard everywhere in this county.
Yeah, now, here I'm just saying there's 400-something cemeteries, but I think there's thousands of cemeteries in Jefferson County. Everybody had a farm, they had somebody buried there, it seems like.
We'll be referencing the 1858 map of Jefferson County. We utilize this a lot. You can go to the Library of Congress, loc.gov website, search for 1858 Jefferson County map. It's very interactive, you can really zoom in on it. It was done by a guy by the name of G.T. Bergman, and here's some more information on him. I really want to thank this guy for doing what he did. Gustav Bergman was his name, and Jack helped to come up with some of this information. There's his obituary there in the center. And basically what he did was, from me reading what he did, he had a wheelbarrow and he had a distance sort of measurement on it, and he literally ran around the entire county and measured property and buildings and streets, and just phenomenal. Here's this is the Jeffersontown area, but just phenomenal detail of who lived where, roads, railroads, whatever. I think he did this, I think it took him 10 years to do, if I read that right. And I can only imagine how many shoes he wore out in this process. But just phenomenal, and so we want to give him some thanks. Here he is, his gravesite here in Cave Hill Cemetery. And I think he was cremated, correct, Jack?
I don't remember.
I think it says he was cremated, and it's got an urn on top that perhaps has his ashes in it, I think. But anyways, you can look at that. And but Gustav T. Bergman, and he did it all on his own. He was a surveyor, and we really like that 1858 map of Louisville. Use it a lot. There it is there. So the first cemetery we want to focus on is not just a stone's throw from here, the German Reformed Presbyterian Cemetery. You all hopefully passed it by, perhaps as you were coming here to the library. So here is where we are at. Here is the Jeffersontown Library there, Waterston Trail there, and there's the cemetery right there. Historical photograph of it.
Anybody have any idea what date that would be? I know that picture's been around a bit, but I don't know what the date would be.
We don't have that one, do we?
I've got ones similar to that, and I would say that's probably the 1940s.
They had telephones then.
A lot of the stones are upright, so I mean, that's great. When you see a later picture, some of them are leaning over or
1799.
or laying on the ground or whatever.
And I do want to call out that this company here maintains the cemetery, and that's unfortunate about a lot of cemeteries nowadays. They're not properly maintained. But this one is being funded, I take it, by these folks here.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for 25 years. Well, no, I think it's 21,
Well,
22.
But it's good to have a company like that volunteering to do that.
Now, this is,
They're not just cutting the grass, they're taking care of the stones?
No, they're just cutting
Just the
grass.
grass.
This is considered a private cemetery. It's a church cemetery, and like a lot of people think the city of Jeffersontown owns it, but they can't even go in there to fix anything up because legally they'd get in trouble. the descendants of the people that live there should get together, in my opinion, and fix the cemetery up. I'd be glad to help them.
Here are some more images of it. But at least it's well maintained, and you still have a lot of stones remaining. Now then, the original cemetery was located at Tellersville Road in Marineth Lane, thank you. And so that is way up there.
Now, this cemetery was probably also shared by the Lutheran cemetery. As you'll see in I think the next slide, this stone is in the museum. I don't think it's on the display floor right now, but it was earlier. The one on the left they're the same stone. The one on the right is just a zoomed in picture. So you can see where she died in 1820.
200 years ago.
You would think that she would be buried in the new one, but her husband died, I think it was 1809,
I'm not sure.
No.
The date.
1809, I think, but I'm not sure on the date. So she probably wanted to be next to her husband at the old location. And that's right around where the viaduct is on Tillsville Road. Somewhere
So-
between that and the car wash, probably somewhere in that area.
And so the new cemetery is down in this area here. Here's the white area.
Is that the oldest cemetery in Kentucky?
Fourth oldest.
No.
Huh?
Fourth oldest.
The German Reformed one is.
And then we have the Lutheran cemetery, which is right adjacent to the German Reformed Presbyterian Cemetery. And it is right here. So the German Reformed Cemetery is right there, and the Lutheran is right adjacent to it.
Oh,
So there's actually two cemeteries there, not just one.
know that.
Was that Lutheran? Yeah.
That church, of course, is where the thoroughbred course
Yes,
practices.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, the top picture on the left, that one stone by itself is in the German Reform, and then we're looking at the Lutheran past that.
Yeah, so the dividing line would be
Yeah.
right in this area here.
Yeah.
Hope they get along.
Now, if we go back to that last picture, there was that picture right there. If you see the tall monument over there, that's for Peter Yenawine. And at the bottom of it is Leonard Yenawine. And we saw his wife's stone, that's correct, his wife's, yeah, his wife's stone is in the museum here. So he is probably not buried there. He's probably at the old location for the Lutheran and the German Reform.
Some Blankenbakers are buried there as well.
And you can see the different spelling. On the left, it's B-E-K-E-R. On the right, it's B-A-K-E-R. And they're the same family. You'll notice my hand up there at the top. When Steve took my picture, the next slide shows where the stone, it's laying on its side against another one.
Oh.
And we'll talk about the Blankenbakers and the Blinkenbakers later on in the presentation.
I forgot I have my cat toy here.
Okay. If it
It's not
shows
working.
up.
It doesn't
yeah.
show on
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't show on a
Really?
monitor, yeah.
Oh,
It
okay.
disappears.
Well, my cat enjoys it anyway.
But feel free, Jack, if you want to stand a little closer. The Jeffersontown Cemetery.
Now, this one's really big, isn't it?
Yeah, so here it is located.
It's about 4.5 acres. And it does, a lot of people say, oh, it belongs to the city of Jeffersontown, but no, it doesn't. It's a private cemetery.
Grandma Wayne.
I'm sorry?
My great-grandmother's buried there.
Oh, yeah? I'm not sure when it started. There's a stone in there for a lady who died in later years, and she's got her husband on there who died in the 1820s, but he died in another state. I don't think he's buried there. The oldest stone that I could find, there's some in the 1850s. So I take it maybe the 1840s or 1850s when
I
it
thought there were a
started.
bunch of 1834, because that's when we had the cholera.
I went through every single picture
None
that I
of them
took,
had 1834?
and I couldn't find it, but I'd like to see your picture of,
Yeah, I need to look at my book, because it seemed like there was some by the fence, down near the fence, like, but I may be thinking of World War I burials of babies.
And there's a monument there that's a zinc monument. You can go up and tap on it and it's metal.
It's hollow inside.
Prefab.
Back in the late 1920s, the 1930s, I've read stories that, well, those plates, you can put your name on there. Then if somebody else dies in the family, you take that plate off, you throw it away, and you put a new plate up there. Well, what they did, the bootleggers, whatever you want to call them, they had little knobs on it where you can unscrew it and put your whiskey in there. The person would come get it, leave the money or whatever, so it's like a store in a way.
What about the one that's outside the fence?
We'll do
We'll
those.
come up to
Hang
that.
on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Don't worry, we're not done with
we're
cemeteries yet.
still inside the fence right now. Yeah.
Here, this Civil War soldier, right? Is this the one?
Yeah, these were, this general who was in charge of this area or whatever, he said if anybody from the Union ever gets killed, he's gonna kill 4 Confederates. And
It was a general order that was brought out.
Anyway, what he did, they had some captured, they just drug him out and they shot him. So they,
Yeah, so these Confederate soldiers are buried here, these.
you can see on the left that 2 of them, only their names there. All 4 of them were buried there. 2 were removed and buried elsewhere in the state by their families.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about cemetery symbolism. As you go through cemeteries, there are certain images on the markers, and we'll discuss a little bit about those. You may see a symbol that looks like it's broken off halfway, whether that's an obelisk or a stump of a tree or some other column. And you might think that was damaged by a storm or something like that, but actually that means cut off in the prime of life. So it usually means a young adult or a teenager, or maybe in the early 20s. And whenever you see an anchor on that sort of a stump of a monument, that means that was a woman. She was the anchor of the family. So that's Victorian symbolism. So that means a young woman who died in the prime of life. And unfortunately, a lot of times when you go into the history and look at that, she died during childbirth, usually is what that represents. Obelisk, there's a lot of obelisk. It's the Egyptian symbol for eternity, so that's why you get a lot of obelisk in cemeteries. And then you get this draping, this mourning draping effect for empathy and mourning of one's death. So you get a lot of that on cemeteries, symbols. And then you might see a lot of upside down torches with a flame down below here. So the flame is down below, and that means the extinguishing life is what. If you go to Cave Hill Cemetery, this is from Cave Hill Cemetery, the main gates have huge torches upside down as you drive in and out of Cave Hill. And a number of the monuments there have these upside down torches on them. So that's that. That's the end of life is what that represents. We were just talking about soldier symbolism. The Union headstone is the curved headstone. And then the Confederate has the pediment or the angled headstone. And at Cave Hill they have a lot of Confederate burials there that were buried by the Union. They were either died of illness in the prison or at the end of a rope in the prison. And so they were buried under the Union symbol with a curved top. Well, now with genealogy, the descendants of the Confederates are going to Cave Hill and are seeing that they're buried under the Union symbol, and they will replace it with the Confederate symbol. If you go to Confederate cemeteries in the South, like in Atlanta, tons of these with the pediment top. But the federal symbol, like at Arlington, is the curved top. So a little cemetery. So how many have your markers up already? Who's got their markers up? This is my marker. It's up at Calvary. And you don't know what your descendants are going to do with the money, okay? Get your marker up before you go. There's a lot of examples, lots of examples, not only in the cemeteries we'll be discussing, but at Cave Hill, very wealthy individuals did not get their marker up, and they either got a very small headstone or no headstone whatsoever. So our headstone, me and my wife decided to mimic my parents' headstone. This is my parents, And we thought, well, 100 years from now, for what it's worth, your descendants are coming to look for you. No matter what you think, your descendants are going to look you up and find out where you're buried, just like we are doing today. And so I said, well, my descendants, 100 years from now, they'll see these two markers and realize that we're related. And also always put symbols on your headstones as to what you like to do in life, to help us historians understand what you did. So on mine, I have the cross for being a Catholic, City of Louisville symbol, books. I like to write them. My wife likes to read them. We like hiking and walking, and that's an architectural symbol there. So put a symbol on there, and you'll see as we go through our presentation here, a lot of these type symbols on headstones helps us historians a lot. At Cave Hill, on the back of one of the monuments, the people put where they like to vacation, what food they like to eat, and we find that humorous, but I tell you, 100 years from now, the descendants are going to see that, your descendants, your great-great-great-grandkids are going to say, wow, look what our ancestors loved to do. So put on what you want, and whatever additional information that
You
you
even
can
put your children's names.
Yeah, a lot of people put their children's, like my parents did, and I haven't told my wife this, but I'm gonna put stuff on the back of my headstone as well, hoping she goes for, no, I won't say that first. But anyways. And by
I
the way,
have to tell you though, my mother was so concerned about people not knowing she was pregnant when she married, that she put married on her and Dad's tombstone with the wrong date.
let's go.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
there,
don't believe everything you see on.
carved in stone, so don't believe everything
One
you
last
see.
monument tip is, when you look at the cemeteries, you'll see the ones we've got, a lot of the markers are gray, just gray granite.
Yeah.
But if you choose a different color stone, like a black or a red, it will really pop out and help your descendants find you better. So that's what we did. Ours is red, theirs was black. I want to talk about Myers Funeral Home, which was a legendary funeral home here out in Jeffersontown. And Jack, if you would, or anyone else would like to talk about Myers. I'm not dying to talk about them right now. That's a joke. That was a joke.
Okay, Fred was in business with Mr. Blankenbaker, I know that. Now, the other guy, I believe they were in business in real estate or whatever together. That's all I remember on that. But what we have for the next slide? I can't read that.
And that's the headline.
Okay,
That's
I
their
guess I need to get over
location.
here a little bit.
There you go,
Of course, the funeral home was here,
in the center, yeah.
and it's like a parking spot, and where Jeffersontown Hardware stores a lot of their stuff. They put hay or whatever there, and lawnmowers or whatever. Here you can see it's right there, of course. And then that was a close-up, that was at the bottom. This is some advertisements that he has.
Rubber tires.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a big thing.
I'm sure
back in
the
those days.
person inside
Yeah,
liked that smooth
appreciate
ride,
it.
yeah.
I've got their chapel window at the museum, it's on display right now, and they put the fun in funeral home, because they also showed movies there.
Yeah.
And they even advertised on one of these hearse ads about their new electric piano for the movies that they showed.
Fun time at the funeral home.
And there's Fred Myers when he passed away. I don't know what year that was, but anyway. So now then, speaking about the...
So let me just mention, there was another funeral home, Hall's Funeral Home, that was here in Jeffersontown also, but I didn't have much to include on him. I didn't have a picture of it, and I don't think. But yeah, now we're talking about the
Cemeteries
outside.
adjacent to the Jeffersontown Cemetery. So we have the Lewis Cemetery. So it was right here, so there's the main
Now, when we
cemetery.
put these yellow boxes, that's about where it is. It could be a lot longer. I was over there a couple of days ago and found something right here. Actually, you can sort of see it, and it looks like a foundation. I don't know if that goes with the Jeffersontown Cemetery or if it's part of this. Looking at these, they are sort of facing east, which was a practice back in those days. But the way they're lined up and everything, I'm just wondering, when they put Rego Parkway through here, Parkway Road, whatever it is, if they moved some of them over there. Anybody have any idea if they...
Or paved over them.
Well, that's Jeffersontown, that's, on Jefferson Street, they did pave over, but on the Second Otis Cemetery in Louisville. But anyway, there are quite a few stones here, and there may be some going
Well, who
farther.
owns this cemetery now? Jeffersontown Cemetery. You said it's
Jeffersontown?
private.
It's an association like St. Stephen's.
Okay.
Her husband was, what were you, his president of St.
Yeah,
Stephen's?
yeah.
Yeah.
And who owns Lewis Cemetery?
Who?
Who owns Lewis Cemetery?
Lewis Cemetery. Well, the land is owned by the city of Jeffersontown, but they don't own the cemetery. So the David Lewis owned the land that went right up to this little square here, which was Jeffersontown Cemetery. And let's see, David's sister-in-law was Dolly, and John and Beth put in the newsletter in December of who she was and everything. Hopefully you read it. But she was a evangelist, known sort of like all over the country, really. And she was from Jeffersontown. She had a revival out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, another minister, Frank Fielding, and all, was also buried in that location.
These two are sisters, both of them Lewis. Harriet married.
Where is that located?
That's in the Lewis Cemetery.
We're still in the Lewis Cemetery, and I'm blocking your view.
No, it's not in the rest table.
No, not in Rest Haven. This is just outside the Jeffersontown Cemetery. And Ellen over on the left, died of Waverly Hills Cemetery. She died of TB. And Harriet, I could not read her death certificate.
Yeah, they died fairly young, didn't they?
Yeah,
She was 21,
four months
and
apart, both in their
22.
20s, 4 months apart. And,
Yeah. So here's another
yeah,
cemetery.
yeah, another one right next to the Lewis Cemetery. Both of these families are black. And I don't know how these two, this was a married couple. Now, I don't think, I'll get to that story in a minute. I don't think that their stones are at the right place. And I don't think the stones are from the 1940s. I think maybe, well, first of all, the wife's up here and the husband's there. That's not usually how you bury
Yeah.
people. They don't even have, this is December 6, 1944. So they're over a year apart, I mean, on their accuracy. She had children, he did not. This was their second marriage. And I have a feeling his stepkids put this stone in here for him and didn't know the correct date. But anyway, I don't know if they're related to the Lewis family at all, so I counted it as two cemeteries.
But they got a fence around there or something.
They do.
That's pretty good.
And that's why I'm thinking they're not related. They didn't want to be related to the Lewis family.
But they're being very well maintained.
Yeah, well, the city of Jeffersontown does do that since it's their land, so unfortunately, you can't hardly see her stone anymore. They let that grow out, and you gotta look for it.
Okay, Caldwell Cemetery. And this one is just down the road here, you can see it. This is, again, there's two cemeteries here, right adjacent to each other, the Caldwells and the Simpsons. We'll discuss both those. So this is the Caldwell. Not a lot of monuments there left.
I take it this is a community cemetery, black community cemetery, and I really don't know much about it. However, there's a lot of empty space, and I'm sure there's a lot of people buried there.
Right.
I collect death certificates and death records, and I have a lot that do not have stones. Now, if you see, of course, this is part of the Caldwell Cemetery still. Historically, it's known as the Jeffersontown Colored Cemetery. And this green line right here, the grass is higher. This is the Simpson Memorial Gardens, which is the next page.
There you go. So it's on the back side of where the Caldwells are. And this is as close as we got to it, since the property owner really discourages people from...
I went in there, was taking pictures, and he told me to get the heck out. And he didn't want me back there.
So the owner lives nearby, I take it?
He
Yeah,
lives on the
adjacent.
land right there adjacent to it.
Say
Yeah,
it's
yeah. It's in his side yard.
Oh.
Say it's down from what, Willow Well, past, between Rock
This house is right
and
there.
Walnut Wood.
Well, I'm seeing the sound of Caldwell again. It's on some death certificates that way. Caldwell Street Avenue, whatever it is somewhere over here. But who in the heck was Caldwell? Y'all have any idea?
Huh?
Do you have any idea who Caldwell was?
No.
Yeah. So anyway, it got his name, so I take it maybe he owned all this land at one time, way back.
Where's Billtown Road on that map? Right in front of it?
This is Billtown
Down where
Road.
St. Edward's
Down
Cemetery.
here.
This is Watterson Trail up here.
Oh, okay.
What's St. Edward Catholic Cemetery. So there it is right here with the oval.
The first burial was in 1903, but they didn't get the land till 1907, so they officially opened in 1907.
Is that associated with the church?
Yes.
Yes, that's St. Edward's.
Mayor Ruckrigo is buried there, Daniel Ruckrigo.
I took that picture before he died, and so that's why his death date is not on there. He was prepared, like Steve.
The Duncan Cemetery. There it is, right in the midst of all this industrial area. It's right next to this company here.
Somewhere underneath the building there, or the outbuilding in the back, is where it used to be. They moved it, and they put in this great big concrete pad and a sidewalk that leads down to it. So the family must have had a lot to say. Maybe didn't want it moved, but then they were talked into it.
Yeah, the sidewalk, there's a parking area up here. You walk down this sidewalk way down, and the cemetery's at the far end.
Is that just one stone?
Well,
Oh,
there's 6, 7, there's 8 stones that are there. One for Fanny Cotton Duncan and John Henry Duncan. Actually he went by Henry. Henry was a bricklayer. This is another black family. There are 6 unknown markers. Some of them were some of their children who died young. But they just put unknown 1 through 6 on there. If we go back with just one slide, that one right there. This is the other guy. This was John Jeffrey. He was the son of Fanny in a previous relationship. So we got all the stones in.
The Unknown Cemetery.
I should put unnamed cemetery there.
Yeah, we know where it's at.
It's in those woods back there. I mean, it is something, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's, in case anybody wants to walk up there, it's right back in here somewhere on the hillside.
It's only 27.
I have no
26
idea.
actually,
You're with the Louisville
26.
Genealogical Society. Maybe you can do some research and find out who William, you're still there, right?
Where?
With the Louisville Genealogical Society?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And Judy's still there. If y'all can figure out who he is, I have no idea.
Who
It's
is that?
William E. Hobbs.
William E.
I wonder if he's
Hobbs.
kin to the Hobbs of Anchorage.
I
would be
know.
The only
They,
connection.
But he died in 1887. He died August 17, 1887.
So he was just
He was
shy
born
of his,
October 26,
he was almost 27.
1860. And we converse, I can send you the information, Pat.
Yeah.
Is that in the industrial park as well?
That's in the industrial park, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an aerial of that, do I? Huh. The Bechtold Snyder Cemetery. So here's Bechtold's property, and there's Snyder's property, right adjacent to
And
each other.
the guy that owned this farm married a Snyder. So, and they were neighbors, I guess they were friendly
So the
neighbors.
cemetery's right here. There's Plantside Drive, Ampere Drive here, Technology Drive. So it's in the industrial park area. It's right adjacent to this huge warehouse. There's a stone wall.
This is the way I like them to have cemeteries. Don't move them, build around them.
Yeah.
When they dig them up, they don't get everybody.
I guess that's the
I love the
Snyder
wall.
family, Gene Snyder's relative.
Well, actually, in the old country, they spelled it Schneider. And they Americanized it by the spelling of Snyder. Now, this is Simon. He probably worked the land for a while, but his father and mother over here, his father is probably the one that owned the land, because what we saw was, I believe, was 1858 map.
Yes.
So he was only like 16 years old or something over
Right.
there. So the father was John and the mother Catherine. Behind her is Frederick Snyder, and that's her half-brother back there. Don't know who that is.
Miller Cemetery. Another one that's buried among all the warehouses back here in this corner here. There's Bluegrass Parkway.
Keep it on there for just
Sure.
a second. This is Dr. Robert Miller Cemetery. He lived across I-64, of course, before it was built. This was all his farmland, and his log house was over there. There's a wood small cemetery over there, but that's in Douglas Hills, so it didn't make this Jeffersontown presentation. But these stones, as you'll see in a second, are in really bad shape. And we can't, I really don't know which one is.
Yeah, they're very poor
Dr. Miller.
condition.
That one is split in half. A tree limb had to come down and break it like that. I'm not sure. There's one that you can read, William R. Miller, and also Dr. Robert Miller's wife. You can barely read. I forgot which one it's down, but you can read it somewhere.
Jefferson County Poorhouse Cemetery.
And where is that then?
So here is Jeffersontown downtown area, and there's the poorhouse.
Yeah, right now we would be somewhere around in here, I believe, and the cemetery was up higher.
Say, if you go down the Waterson Trail in Rucker, you go to the light, and you turn left, that's where the baseball park is. That's Skyview Park, that's.
Yeah.
I'll go back a little bit. So here's more of the history there.
Yeah, this is, of course, we know where, well, if you're from Jeffersontown, you probably know where the more recent one is. It's the Rainbow Senior Citizen Activity thing, or whatever it is, right next door to us. But this is how the buildings looked before that. I don't know which generation they were. And each building had a different, we can go back there just for a second. This, this was the cooking, dining, and rec room. Over here, we have a asylum for the mentally weak. Maybe that's where I should have been. We have quarters here. And of course, one was for women, one for men, and so forth. That's a lot of reading, but I can tell you roughly.
Just talking about the history
The
of it.
farm started in 1858, and it had about 70 acres. I've collected 102 death certificates that are buried in the Jefferson County Poorhouse Cemetery. And I've got some other records, one from one of the old Fred Myers funeral home book. And when they had the death records, I wish they would have put what cemetery, but they'll just put county. And that could be anywhere in the county, of course. But one of them actually had Poorhouse Cemetery. But the other ones I can't figure out. But I would imagine there's hundreds buried down there. Okay, the one is, let me see where.
This is one of the same, this is a smaller, larger view area with Jeffersontown here, and then the county home cemetery.
Oh, okay, this is what I want to show you. This is from 1960, and they have, it's great, you can see where the outline, this is a fence actually that goes around there, but they just, of course, drew it. That's where the cemetery is located. The next slide, this is from 1949, I think. You can actually see the fence that goes all the way down and over here and around here. So we know where the cemetery is. And there it is, that same line right there. Now, I think it got full. Where's Gene?
Here I am.
Oh, Gene. Gene and I went over there one time, and he showed me in this area that where he saw somebody being dug up to move to another cemetery. So I think whoever planned the cemetery was very sensitive on not disturbing the graves. I don't think there's any underneath here or underneath the asphalt or anything. I think it's in those two areas.
This is an interesting cemetery, still fairly decent. This is Whetstone Way coming along through here. Is that what is that? Is that Hurstburn? Hurstburn over here, yeah, Lynn Station Road down here. The cemetery's up there in this apartment complex.
Looks a lot better now. The Plainview Apartments got in there and destroyed it. They pulled up all the periwinkle, they knocked down the stone wall. There's a picture coming up of what the stone wall looked like. But they got in trouble. The police were out there, I was there, Metro government went out there, and we all gave them heck. They actually did a Class D felony on several counts, but they look like they fixed it up, modernized it, and it doesn't look too bad right now. Here's the stone wall that was around it.
Oh,
And a bulldozer riding across the grades, bulldozing it all
should
down.
have made them put that back.
And these people were double cousins. You don't get that very often. You get first cousins sometime, but you don't get double first cousins marrying. But
Kentucky.
yeah, we're in Kentucky.
They're related on both sides.
You can see, I would imagine when Mr. Tway family sold off the land, and then the destructive human beings came in, the kids knocked down a lot of stones and stuff. The apartments, I mean, it's right there for the kids to knock over and have fun.
John, can I ask you, how do you get to be double first cousin?
I actually have these stuff. Who said that?
Up here.
Oh, you. I can send you the stuff, but it's hard to. Their grandparents were. I can't. I'll send
You
it
can
to you.
Google it, Google it.
marries
a Yeah.
sister, or the sister marries a brother.
So here's the Blankenbakers. So if you look at the 1858 map, you'll see a lot of Blankenbakers listed here. There's a Blankenbaker here. I'm not sure if we have any is that a no, I'm looking for
There's
Blankenbakers.
Beaker up there.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah,
But they're all the same family. In the old country, they spelled it with an E. They modernized, or they Americanized it with an A.
So one of the cemeteries is right here, again, in the industrial zone, just off Blankenbaker Road.
It was in the middle of wilderness here at
Yeah.
one time. This is an old picture that I took, 10, 15 years ago, whatever. There was an old house right here. I don't know how old it was. But the next picture, you can see, well, you can't really see it. Now we're back, where are we here? Okay, this is some of the names. I believe this is John Blankenbaker Cemetery. It could be, how do you pronounce his name?
Philemon.
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 It could maybe be his, but I'm thinking it's John because his name is not showing up on the 1858 map, but John is. And I don't think we have a picture of John up here. We have his wife.
There's a John.
There's a John.
No, it's John
And
W.
Eunice.
That's not him.
So, anyways, yeah, but as you can tell, not much there. So here's the actual Blankenbaker Cemetery, which is off Bluegrass Parkway near Papa John's.
Well, I don't know how much actual it is. It wasn't there earlier, but they moved it, and I don't know how much they moved. But it used to be where Garden Ridge, if some of us old timers remember where that was,
Yeah.
over there by the expressway, I-64 and Blankenbaker Parkway. They moved them, not sure what happened to the slaves. They seemed to disappear, but there was a slave cemetery over there also. This cemetery is old and it's hard to read. I can't make out any of them now. It was marked by the SAR.
Would that stone have been limestone? It wasn't granite, or it would have been marble, would it?
It's not marble, but I don't know what
It may
certain
have been
material it
limestone,
could
perhaps.
be,
It's not granite.
but it didn't hold up well. And
You
in that
want
same
You
area,
want granite for your monument, for what
yes,
it's
granted
worth.
only.
No marble,
And behind the cemetery that we just saw is the Orr Cemetery.
which is right behind it. So the Blankenbaker's right up here, and the Orr is right behind it. Lots of poison ivy back there, just a FYI. Don't go looking for it.
So Steve, what's wrong with the marble stone?
It weathers.
Doesn't
It will eventually weather off. Whenever you see a headstone that's pretty much weathered off, it was marble stone. You want granite, it will last.
There is
a lot
a Georgia marble stone that holds up pretty well, but the old marble, I mean, it just wears off. It's terrible to try to read the names. But this is the older cemetery.
It's back here.
It was located in Lake Forest, and they moved this cemetery too. What it is NTS owned this property, and they were developing other land, and they moved the cemeteries here. They do have some footstones, the gentleman and his wife there.
The Funk Cemetery. So Peter Funk owned a large land area up here at Hurstburn Parkway, which comes right through here in Tellersville Road. And the Avon was the name of the home there that they gave it. And the Funks also owned across Tellersville Road. And they built these homes, which hopefully you all are familiar with. Here's the John Funk, Peter Funk home right here. And as you may know, it used to be a masonry front, and then they put this stone on it a few years ago, which kind of defeated the purpose of that. This is Dunlea, right up here. And then the other Funk house over here across Tellersville Road, which we moved a few years ago. They were going to demo it. They built a jewelry store right here on the corner, and they moved the Funk house inland there. Let me see on the map, I thought, yeah, here's the cemetery. So the Funks were out here, and the cemetery was off the back. You come in off this drive here to find the cemetery.
One of these was his house? Which one is it? Is this his
Yeah,
house?
that's it right there, yes.
Well, this one, okay.
Is
And,
that, isn't one of those across from the Merrily, is that what that's called?
No, Leah's right
Leah.
here. And this is Buca de Beppo, if you know where that's at.
Is
The
that
pulp
the
room is
place
right there.
that promised not to alter the house and immediately did as soon as?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And then somehow or other it caught fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we had a big hearing, and all that came out of it was that all he had to do is rehab the spring house.
Spring House, which is
And
right
that
there.
was his only penalty.
And I think it looks like that business has gone out of business, has it? It looks
Oh,
pretty-
Yeah.
what he had has gone belly up a couple of times.
So here's the Funk Family Cemetery.
In very poor shape.
Lots of poison ivy there too. Wear long pants when you go to these cemeteries.
And boots, like
There's
I'm
Peter
wearing.
Funk's headstone. And notice he has the Masonic symbol. Yeah.
That stone is just being held up by some rebar.
Yeah.
And you can see my foot is pointing towards a stone that's underground. There's several of them that vegetation has just taken over and you can't see them.
Yeah, there's a much better picture of it that you took some time
That's the
ago.
one that is being held up by rebar. Actually, I think you can see the shade of it maybe at the back.
When was he born?
1782.
1782.
Oh, that's 1864, okay.
Yeah, he died in 1864. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
he was
this-
in the War of 1812.
Yeah, so he's been, what, 30 years old?
So it's really not known who built that house. It's either Peter or his father, John.
I think it was John. He would have only been.
Probably John.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Now, I think this is our last photograph.
It
Yep,
is.
there it is. Okay. So you now know where the bodies are buried. If anyone's interested in books. Any questions for us? Any cemeteries we left out?
How do I get your book on Cabbage Patch?
Well, I'll talk to you after the
Okay.
program.
Okay.
But yes, a question up front here,
You just
yes.
mentioned one slave burial place, and I wondered if there are others scattered around.
I'm sure there are, but so many of those get lost.
Yeah, unfortunately, slave cemeteries just have stones for headstones, and they're easily lost. A good example is if you go down to Bernheim Forest, they have the main cemetery, the Magruder Cemetery, I think it is, they all have nice headstones. And just around the corner from that is the Slave Cemetery, and they all have just very small stones adjacent. So Slave Cemetery is still pretty definable there. And there's a Boy Scout troop that has taken it as their maintenance mission to keep it cleaned up. And so whenever there's a huge storm, so there's always huge storms out Burnham, the trees fall in, they clean it all up and restore all the stones and all. So, but yeah, the Magruder Family Cemetery has all of the headstones still there, and then the Slave Cemetery. And I know, Jack, you mentioned one time about a slave cemetery that's in St. Matthews, that they built an apartment complex all the way around it, and in the center is a triangular section that looks like a park. But it's not, it's a slave cemetery. I think that's correct.
That's correct. And also we mentioned the Guard Cemetery earlier. There's this, normally on the west side is where they put the slaves, around the wall, on the outside of the wall. And there's one stone out there that I think may be for a slave. And it's level with the ground now, so they can cut over it. But it's upright, and it just looks like a gravestone.
And there's a lot of Native American burial sites as well. The airport has a number of Native Americans buried on it, the main airport, but there's Native Americans buried elsewhere in the area.
There's quite a few slave cemeteries, but so many have been lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were just so poorly
I
identified.
mean, they put basically a rock, they stuck it up and buried it a little bit, and it was stuck up. And then they want to cut grass, what the heck, get those out of the way. And that's happened to a lot of other established cemeteries for Caucasians, that they remove them, so either they can plant corn or some type of crop or whatever, and or to cut the grass.
And that's one reason why they now have a lot of flat headstone type cemeteries, that you see a lot of flat memorial cemeteries. And a lot of that happened prior to, the modern day weed whacker is good because it has a nylon, but back in the day they used to be steel. They would nick up a lot of the monuments, and so they would lay them flat, things like that for maintenance reasons.
And the riding wars.
Yes,
Jack,
ma'am.
I got a question about, and I know it must not be in J-Town, that's why it didn't come up, but the cemetery out there on Billtown and in that subdivision there, close to
Chenoweth?
Snyder.
Chenoweth,
Chenoweth
Run
Cemetery,
Cemetery?
yes.
Yeah.
Chenoweth Run.
That's a real old one.
Yeah,
that's
he's very
outside
old.
the
There's
city
actually a
limits.
Patriots buried there. I think he's in the
I'm sure
French
there
Navy
is.
War or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. And there's quite a few in the German Reform that served in the Revolutionary War.
They're out there too.
There's one marker there, and maybe